Hey, welcome back to Doug Pagitt Radio, broadcasting live out of the Twin Cities, Blog Talk Radio, and over on Ustream. Get all this over at DougPagittRadio.com, of course. All right, so I want to give you my take on taxes. You know, there's a big debate that goes on between Republicans and Democrats about what we do about tax policy. Now, it's only one of many conversations. The big conversation that's going to be going on in the presidential debates this year is really not about taxes. It's really about the effectiveness of supply-side economics. So if you don't know that phrase yet and you want to pay attention to the political debate at the presidential level, what our friend Paul Ryan represents is supply-side economics. He doesn't really represent tax breaks. He doesn't really represent any of that. He represents the idea that if you were to free up the capital of individuals, that would spread to others. It's what George Bush Sr. referred to in his primary against Ronald Reagan in 1980 as Voodoo Economics.
Oh, because Reagan was about trickle down
or supply side. I mean, it is a well argued, well thought out economic theory. That's wrong, in my opinion, and in the opinion, I think, of anybody who looks at how economics works. But it just isn't true that people are going to, if you free up money to the wealthy, that somehow is going to infuse through the rest of the economy and help people that don't have. That's just not how it's going to work. But anyway, that's the real big conversation. But what this will be wrapped in is a conversation about taxes, because Mitt Romney doesn't pay any at the federal level, right? And because there's a big debate about, do you want to go from a 35% tax rate or down to a 28% tax rate for the highest tax bracket, or do you want to even go to a flat rate? Well, here's why I don't think either party nor either presidential candidate is serious about this, because the big debate about lowering or raising taxes on high-income earners is, will it or will it not hurt small businesses, right? You hear that all the time. Is it going to hurt small businesses? Is it going to hurt the job creators?
Yeah.
Here's why that's a fallacy. We have two styles of taxes in the United States. There's individual income taxes,
okay, and
corporate taxes,
sure.
Right? Corporate taxes or individual taxes. They're on two different schedules. They're two different tax rates. They're different altogether. Your individual tax rate is you earn income and you fill out your W-9s and your W-2s and your 1044s and all your forms, less all of your income. Then the federal income, the federal government has a percentage that they're going to tax you on the amount of earnings that you have.
Yes.
What we allow to happen in this country is for some businesses to file not as corporations, but to file as individuals.
Now, who falls into that category?
Anybody who owns a business that can be listed as a LLC or a partnership.
Okay.
So those businesses, which I own one of, we get to file our taxes not as a corporation, even though we are a limited liability corporation, an LLC. We don't have to file as a corporation. We're allowed to file as an individual. So it's already a lower rate.
I was just going to say, so is the reason why scofflaws like you do that is so that you would have to pay less taxes.
That's why people do it. That's why they start corporations like that, because these limited liability corporations and other kinds of partnerships are allowed to file their taxes not as a corporation, but as an individual.
Is there any limit on like how much an LLC can make or
Nope.
whatever? I mean, you could have like $1 billion LLC and claim that as personal income.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, what you can't do is you can't have shareholders. You can't be organized in that way.
Right.
But there's lots of very large companies that are really LLCs.
Yeah.
So when a politician says, if you raise taxes on individual earners over $250,000, you're going to hurt job creators because we allow corporations to be in the category of individual earners.
Yeah.
If what you said was corporate LLCs are not allowed to file their taxes according to individual tax rates, or we're going to raise taxes on earners, but not on limited liability corporations. That would solve the problem. So if you were serious about this, like we want to raise taxes on high earners because somebody gets paid $250,000 or $500,000 of salary a year, we want to raise that tax rate, but we don't want to hurt businesses, then move the businesses out of the individual tax rate category over into the current corporation tax rate, or create another one. Get them out of there. And because neither party will raise the issue of moving businesses, like home-owned, private-owned businesses, or a lot of farmers, because this is what comes up all the time is, well, you've got this woman and she starts a business at her home and she's got 3 employees, working on her farm or doing something else, and you're going to raise taxes, and then her taxes are going to go up on her business. Well, why is she filing as an individual?
Yeah.
She's not an individual. If either party were serious about this, they would separate the category of being an individual earner for your individual income tax from the business that you run. Because when I file my taxes, I'm able to file both for the corporation that I own, the JOPA Group. That gets to be taxed like an individual, and so does my own personal income. So if
the salaries that you get from selling your books and from the church and all that.
Any other salary that I earn, just like anybody who doesn't own a business. So if taxes are going to be raised on me as an earner, they're also going to be raised on my company because they're clumped together as if they're both individuals. And this is where the problem. And if either party would just say, hey, you know how we solve this? We take businesses, we don't allow them to be in the individual tax rate category any longer. So when we raise income on earners, we're not raising taxes on corporations. They won't do it.
So the debate isn't really about the rate or the amount. It's the category that's being applied to.
That's what I think the debate should be about. The debate, I think, should be about why do we allow corporations to file as individuals when it comes to their taxes. This is sort of roots right back to the Supreme Court ruling of a couple of years ago where corporations are individuals too. Right? Where they're people too. Well, for tax purposes, you don't have that doesn't have to have anything to do with the exception that is given to certain corporations to allow them to file their taxes as an individual.
Okay, so playing devil's advocate, I mean, is there a downside to that? How does that hurt?
Yes,
individuals, LLC people,
because corporate taxes are higher, right? So the reason that they allow corporations, limited liability corporations and others, to file as individuals in their taxes is so that they will have a lower tax rate, because they're like, our corporate tax rate in the U.S. is so high. We want people to start these businesses, so we want to incentivize them to start the business by having a lower tax rate. So what you need to do then is to have another category by which these LLCs can be at a lower tax rate, but not affected when you raise the individual tax rate. And this happens every time. So Obama will say, if someone earns $1 million, they should pay more in taxes. Like if they get if they have $1 million in federal earnings on their federal taxes, like from their paychecks. Right. This isn't even including the kind of money that you make off of other investments and so on. Like Romney, doesn't get paid a salary. Right. He makes money off other investments, which are hidden by a whole other taxes, but by all other tax loops. But in this one, people who earn this amount of money, $1 million, Obama's like, that guy, that woman should pay more in taxes than they're currently paying. And then a Democrat or Republican chimes in and says, oh, yeah, but hang on. If you do that, you raise that tax rate from, 28% to 35%, or you don't keep the Bush tax breaks in place, then you're going to be raising taxes on small businesses. Well, just write the law so that when you raise taxes on individuals, you're not raising it on LLCs that file as individuals. or create another category by which certain corporations get to have a lower tax rate. Like, there's a way to solve this, right?
Yeah.
It's not that complicated. And the fact that neither party talks about it, that neither party wants to, because they both know they don't want to mess with that at all. And if they were serious about it, they would raise the issue. But they're not serious about it. Instead, what they're serious about is how much can it motivate someone to vote for them,
right,
based on these other arguments.
So what would be like? What benefit is that to like conservatives not to enact that?
Okay, because what conservatives, the reason conservatives like this, having corporations be able to file as individuals in the individual category, is because now they can make the argument that if you raise taxes, that's going to be really bad on businesses. Mm-hmm. I mean, you remove it, and then they'll say, well, it's really bad on individuals. Many conservatives have a perspective built around the notion of any tax is bad.
Yeah.
Anytime the government takes, I mean, there's a large constituency who believe at their core that taxes really are stealing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they really are rooted in this, not all of them, but many of them are really rooted in this argument that anytime the government takes from you and you don't see the benefit of it, they are redistributing your income at the barrel of a gun.
Sure.
Right. And so they just want to be opposed to taxes. And this makes it a great argument to stay opposed to taxes, because you can say, well, do you want to hurt people that own small businesses?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, no, I don't want to hurt the guy who owns my local hardware store.
Yeah.
And then guys like me come along and say, why does your local hardware store, or the business that I own, why does your local hardware store get to file as if they're a person? They're a business. File your taxes as a business. And then they'll say, well, nobody would start a business if we had tax levels that made businesses pay as businesses. Then lower the corporate tax. Like, there's a way to make this, but there's a way to solve this problem. And when there's a way to solve the problem and the problem's not being solved, you realize that the conversation is actually about something else. And I think in this case, the conversation is not about taxes or the tax rates or job creators. So
what do the Democrats or liberals or progressives fear? You know, why aren't they leading the charge in this?
Because they don't want to be seen as people who are trying to raise taxes on small businesses either. Because nobody wants to mess with the tax code, right? Because if you move businesses, corporations, out of the individual tax category and put them into another one, that makes them vulnerable to have their taxes raised.
Well, I could see, the point, like, let's say, you wanted to, I don't know, start if I wanted just to start a business where I just married people.
Yeah.
That was, something that I did. And I had to, start an LLC. I could see, like a hesitation, about that, because, I'm going to really, suddenly my, taxes are going to, go up or whatever. But I mean, it seems like that they could, make some sort of, grace period or graduation or something like that, like they do, where you can kind of write off your losses for 5 years or something like that. There's
all
allowances.
kinds of solutions for this. Have a tax rate for new businesses in their first 5 years. Have a tax rate for businesses that earn a certain amount of. There's lots of solutions. But when you have $1 million companies that are saying, if you raise taxes, that's going to hurt our business. And they're like, well, we're not trying to raise taxes on business. We're trying to raise taxes on individual earning. Yeah, but businesses get to file as individual earners. Well, solve that problem by not having them file as individual earners, and let's have one conversation at a time.
Yeah.
They've made a casserole out of this thing where everything's all mixed in there together. So if you don't like the corn, you can't figure out how to eat your way through the casserole, right? Because it's all mixed in there. And it convolutes things, and it leaves people powerless to actually engage in the conversation.
I had a delicious tater tot hot dish yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, Naomi's mom made it.
I was going to say, who in your world would make a tater tot hot dish?
I know. It's a glorious thing when it comes along. Well, I think we should continue this. Like maybe next week we can talk about
tax class.
Yeah, right.
Should we do that? Should I get a whiteboard out and we can go through this?
Right, get that little claw thing that Perot used.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you see Romney pulled that out at a little stop.
Really?
He did. He really did. He really pulled out a whiteboard.
Is that guy still alive, Perot?
Yes, Ross Perot is still alive.
Yeah. Anyway, so maybe like next week.
I don't know. I would check the news today.
We can talk about how. Good grief.
Charlie Brown?
We get to talk about some tax stuff because I just totally forgot what I was going to say.
You started thinking about that tater tot hot dish.
You know what? Truly, I did. I'm still there.
Yeah,
then I got Ross Perot in my head. And
that was it. That was it.
We can talk more tax crap next week.
All right. So over the break here, going to leave you with a little song that I think fits this conversation perfectly well. So hang on tight with us here, Doug Pagitt Radio. We're going to be back after the break, and I'm going to tell you about this gun shop, this gun range in New Hope, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Where they simulate killing Osama bin Laden. If there was a Cripes Come On, You Got to Be Kidding Me segment of this show, this would get all three of them.
You think?
Role-playing for fun the execution of another human being. Yeah. Stick with us over the break, Doug Pagitt Radio.